22nd of April 2017, Lincoln City beat Macclesfield 2-1 to secure promotion out of non-league and make their return to League Two. Not only this, but Lincoln also made it to the FA Cup quarter-finals that year. They beat Ipswich Town, Brighton and Burnley away from home, who were in the Premier League at the time, and they also became the first non-league side since 1913 to make it to the FA Cup quarter-finals. This is not normal. 21st of April 2026, Lincoln City secure the League One title and finish the season with a total of 103 points to return to the second tier of English football after 64 years away. And they are now just one promotion away from Premier League football. Just one. I know it's unlikely, but you never know. Their ground looks like this. I've been there actually, not to brag or anything. And their transfer record is £350,000. That's it. £350,000. And next season they'll be playing West Ham in a league fixture, whose transfer record is an estimated £50 million. So this begs the question, how did Lincoln City go from non-league football to the Championship in just under 10 years, having hardly spent any money? And are they done yet? Let's get into it. The 2016-17 season. Status, the National League. So let's start off with that cup run in the 2016-17 season, because it's pretty crazy, right? They beat Ipswich, they beat Brighton, who at the time were near the top of the Championship, and eventually they got promoted to the Premier League. And they beat Burnley, who were doing quite well in the Premier League at the time. And not only this, it was away from home, and it was a last-minute winner. By doing this, they became the first non-league side to make it into the FA Cup quarter-finals in over 100 years, which is just like, it's unbelievable, because as time goes on, it becomes more and more unlikely due to like the way money's going in the game. Lincoln City's story proves how you don't necessarily need a load of money to win. They were eventually knocked out by Arsenal, who went on to win the thing, so like, it's not a bad team to lose to, is it? But also that same season, they won the National League. If you don't know, the National League is the fifth tier of English football. It is also non-league football. On top of this, it is notoriously hard to get out of it, because there's only one automatic promotion spot, which you get if you win the league. And there's like 6 teams in the playoffs, so it's pretty tricky. But they did win the league with impressive 99 points under Danny Cowley. And they carried that form into the next season, where they were back in the Football League. The 2017-18 season. Status, League Two. This season went pretty well too. They surpassed expectations again and finished in an impressive 7th place. And not only this, they might have won a little bit of silverware. They qualified for the playoffs, but the silverware was not the playoff final trophy. I don't know why they give out a trophy for that, because the 2nd place team and 3rd place team in League One don't get one. Or do they? I've seen the teams who finished 2nd lift a little trophy. I think that's a bit weird. They managed to scrape into the playoffs, but unfortunately they lost to Exeter City, so they didn't make it to the final, and they did not get promoted, obviously. But they still did make it to Wembley that season. The EFL Trophy, the real pinnacle of English football. Lincoln won all their group games in that competition, and won all their knockout games and made it to the final. And it was in the final they faced Shrewsbury Town. You may think that was an easy game, but this was not just any Shrewsbury side. It was the one that almost made it to the Championship, the one that had like Ben Godfrey, Ryan Giles, Carlton Morris, Dean Henderson, and Max Lowe. So a lot of players who went on to greater things. They weren't necessarily expected to win it either, because they finished 7th in League Two, Shrewsbury finished 3rd in League One, I think, but they came away with a 1-0 win at Wembley, as they lifted the EFL Trophy under the Wembley arch, a real nice cap off to their first season back in the EFL. The 2018-19 season. Status, League Two. This is where things went from kind of crazy to crazier. Lincoln City secured promotion from League Two. Not only this, they won the league. In just their 2nd season back in League Two, they went and stormed the league. From start to finish, they were pretty amazing. They had a couple dodgy results, but again, that's normal in every EFL season, in every football season. They went completely against the odds and won the title. John Akinde scored 17 goals. He did pretty well. The Imps, that's their nickname by the way, they went on a massive unbeaten run between December and April, and they sealed promotion with a 1-1 draw against the mighty Cheltenham Town. That was in April, not December. They weren't that good. The thing that's most impressive about this is because they're doing it authentically. Like, you look at Wrexham, I don't know, who almost are buying their way up the leagues. Lincoln have been doing it so authentically for a long time now. So now promoted to League One. How do they get on there? The 2019-20 season. Status, League One. Totally average to start off with. Tyler Walker scored 16 goals this season, but manager Danny Cowley did leave the club in September that season. He was replaced by Michael Appleton, and they did have some decent results this campaign. They beat Ipswich 5-3, they beat Bolton 5-1, they even beat Sunderland 2-0. Even though they're in the same league, I would kind of like classify these as giant killings, because on paper, these are like some big clubs. Lincoln are just putting them aside, and they're not quite that level, are they? Having said that, there were some quite bad results. A 6-0 home defeat against Oxford. Ouch. And a 4-3 away loss to Accrington, which is, it's never nice to lose away to Accrington, but they were pretty decent at the time, I think, were they? I don't think so. But the season was also paused in March due to the pandemic. The table was decided on like a points per game basis, and Lincoln finished 16th. A somewhat forgettable campaign, but good to like solidify a place in the league. Moving on. The 2020-21 season. Status, League One. In this season, they got off to a flying start. They were top of the table after 28 games. If it stayed that way, they would have gone from non-league League in 2017 to the Championship in 2021. That's a lot of promotions in quick succession, but unfortunately it didn't quite happen, but they did come very close. They had a very strong squad this season. They had, believe it or not, Brennan Johnson in on loan from Nottingham Forest, and also this guy, I don't know if you've heard of him, called Morgan Rogers, who's just been sold by Aston Villa for about 100 mil. Insane. So they had them both that season, and they were kind of like gaining their first bits of EFL experience, and it went pretty well. Brennan Johnson scored 13, Morgan Rogers scored 6. However, Lincoln did fall off a bit by the end of the season. They were like flying high, almost destined for a top 2 finish. They ended up finishing 5th, but that is still inside the playoffs. In the semi-final, they faced a massive challenge against Sunderland, a huge club who are looking to make their return to the Championship, but Lincoln went against the odds and beat them. They won the home leg 2-0 and they lost the away leg 2-1. However, it was still enough to make it to the final on aggregate. This was monumental for Lincoln, who were not expected to beat Sunderland for obvious reasons, and they were just one win away from returning to the Championship, and they faced Blackpool at Wembley. However, this Blackpool team were kind of cooking by this point in the season, and Blackpool did win the playoff final 2-1 at Wembley and were promoted to the Championship, leaving Lincoln in League One. Heartbreak for Lincoln. The 2021-22 season, status League One. Fans were back in stadiums, which was a really nice feeling for a lot of EFL clubs. Also very important in terms of like bringing money back in. Lincoln have never exactly been splashing the cash by this point, like even now they're not. But for the lower level clubs especially, it's very important to have the solid home attendances to maintain your club's finances. But the fans would not have liked what they saw this season. The problem with doing so well unexpectedly the season before is that a lot of the players did get snapped up. Morgan Rogers and Brennan Johnson went back to their parent clubs, and they lost a few other key players too. And they spent most of the season bobbing around the relegation zone. Well, they were never really in the relegation zone, but they were always near it. They were never too far away from it, put it that way. They ended up finishing 18th and 12 points off relegation, so even though it sounds bad finishing 18th, they were never really in that much trouble. But it wasn't ideal. They literally only won 5 league games by New Year's Day. Absolutely a season to forget. The 2022-23 season, status League One. They definitely had a stronger season this time around. Their home form the year before was pretty bad, but this time they managed to sort it out, and they only lost 2 home games the whole season. They did also draw 14, but we'll sweep past that bit. About those draws, they went on like a streak of home games where they drew 7 out of 8 of their last home games. Isn't that insane? It's like a double-sided coin, because on the one hand, oh, we're not losing, but on the other hand, oh, we're not winning. Form picked up by the end of the season. They managed to finish 11th on 62 points. The manager, Michael Appleton, also left during the season, and he was replaced by Mark Kennedy. I was thinking Neil Kennedy for a second there. If you know, you know. The main significant thing that I found that happened to them this season was they were knocked out of the FA Cup by the mighty Chippenham Town. That's quite embarrassing. The 2023-24 season, status League One. In the 23-24 season, they started it kind of average. There was no real improvement, and Mark Kennedy soon left the club and was replaced by Michael Scubala. That happened in November, and this proved to be pivotal. After this, Lincoln went crazy. They lost 4 in a row in December, but then after that, they went crazy. After New Year's Day, they lost twice in the league. For the rest of the season, they lost twice. They had some unbelievable results as well, because they went on like a 3-game streak where they beat Barnsley 5-1 away, and then they beat Cambridge 6-0 at home, and then they beat Bristol Rovers 5-0 as well, so they scored 5+ goals 3 games in a row. They signed Joe Taylor on loan in January, and he was amazing. He got their top scorer award, even though he was only there half the time, but unfortunately it wasn't quite enough to make playoffs in the end. But bigger things were still to come. The 2024-25 season, status League One. You know what I said about bigger things to come? Not quite yet, but trust the process. The season did not go to plan under Scubala. It was another standard mid-table finish after a very hot and cold season, but even though things weren't too special on the pitch, off the pitch they made some very important signings. EFL legend James Collins joined the club, George Wickens. Future club captain Tendai Dirikwa also joined the club. These names may mean like nothing right now. Trust the process, next season they will. It will all make sense. Some highlights of the season were maybe beating Bristol Rovers 5-0 again, just for the laughs. I bet Bristol Rovers fans must hate Lincoln for that. 2 seasons in a row is a bit rough. And they also beat Peterborough 5-1, which must have been a great win. Yeah, they finished 11th, so it was nothing special, but it was the next season where everything changed. The 2025-26 season, status League One. Now this is where things took a turn. You know the signings I was on about? This is where they started to cook. Lincoln City could not stop winning. No one really expected Lincoln to do anything that special that season. They're obviously a pretty solid side, but again, no one expected any miracles. They delivered miracles and more. They started the season pretty well. They were in the playoffs. But in November, they lost in the last minute against Wycombe, and then they didn't lose another game. They went on this unbelievable streak. 29 games unbeaten between that Wycombe game and the last game of the season, which they didn't even lose, so technically the streak's still alive. Not a single loss, and they went up as very much deserved champions. 103 points. And I think the most impressive thing is, because people will argue, oh, Birmingham won it with like 111 points. Do you know how much money they spent? Lincoln literally did this when their main signing cost them 350k, and then to win the league with 103 points. Do you understand? Like, That's mind-boggling. And I'll be honest, I watched them a bit last season, and they were never even like the prettiest side to watch, and they were good to watch most of the time. They just knew how to win. They just, every single game, managed to graft and find a way to get the win. They were officially promoted on the 6th of April. That is really early. Bearing in mind the season ends in May, that's still a good couple games before the end. They had 5 till the end. They won 31 out of 46 league games. And believe it or not, they finished a whopping 26 points clear of 3rd place. Are we serious? I'd definitely argue they're one of the EFL's best champions of all time, just purely because no one could have predicted that. And the squad that they built over the years was all kind of like, it all kind of built towards that season. They spent a lot of seasons in League One before this, as we know. But they were slowly building towards something, and this season something just clicked, as in something, I think you can click there. Do you click with your middle finger or your like front finger? Because I do it with my middle finger, but I can't do it with my left hand. I only do it with my right. It's just an incredible achievement to do it with the resources they've got, to spend like as little money as they did. Amazing. And also getting into the championship will do unbelievable things for the club. They were literally in non-league 10 years ago. So well done to Lincoln, and well done to Michael Skubala. The 2026-27 season status, the championship. Michael Skubala left the club to join Bristol City this summer. Would I say that's a disaster for Lincoln? I don't know. It's weird because you get it, why he's getting that attention from clubs who are like higher up and will be able to pay him more. Let's be honest. But it's always interesting to see what happens to the club that they're leaving after they do leave, because everything either like crumbles down behind them or it gets better. So this season will be a test for Lincoln to decide, was it Skubala's job, or was it the players? Was it the assistant coach Chris Cohen, who's now taken over as manager? This is a real kick in the teeth for Lincoln, but they can still do it. However, their pre-season was a bit dodgy. They lost some pretty bad games, but again, it's pre-season, right? It's not about the result. But in the Carabao Cup first round, they beat Derby 2-1 away from home, who they will be playing in the championship this season, so they can do it. And you may think now that they've made it to the championship, they'll make some signings, maybe spend a bit more money, break their transfer record once or twice, who knows? Nope. In typical Lincoln style, they've made 5 signings, 1 for an undisclosed fee, so we don't know how much that is, 1 for free, and 3 on loan. So 5 signings so far. I respect it. I really respect it, because there's some, I think West Ham are linked with Troy Parrott for like 20 mil. Oh, this isn't targeted at West Ham, by the way. It's just like the biggest comparison between the bottom end of the championship this season and then the top end, because I feel like the gap is always increasing. They face Middlesbrough in their opening day in what is probably the biggest season in their modern history. And the best of luck to them, because they deserve this. There's so much to admire here, because they're a top club who have made it there authentically. They've made it there genuinely, without spending a load of money, without buying their way there. They've done it their own way. And people will write off Lincoln this season. I'm sure they will. But as we know, Lincoln always do the weird. They always find a way to do something strange. And I just can't wait to see how they get on this season. Wishing them the best of luck. Thank you very much for watching this video. I really hope you enjoyed and kind of like got something out of it. Put your thoughts in the comments below, but also please do consider subscribing for more football videos like this. I've got lots of content coming your way, so subscribe if you want to see more of that. And also, guys, I've got a new microphone. Isn't it cool? I haven't mentioned it till now, but I'm quite excited by it. See you in the next one. Bye.